So in Denver at the big 5G event, I'm here with Mike Roberts from Ovum. Mike, you were in the keynote sessions. In fact, you hosted a keynote panel this morning here on day one. What would be your key takeaways from what you heard on your panel and from keynote speakers?
I guess the first thing is really that 5G is now real in the US. We're seeing all the major service providers either launching or planning to launch by the end of this year. And it's kind of a milestone because we've gone from talking a lot about 5G, seeing the PowerPoints, seeing the plans, to seeing a lot of real investment and services lighting up. So it's very exciting to see that happening. It's also very exciting to hear service providers like Verizon in the keynotes this morning saying that maybe they're not going to see a lot of revenues this year, more coming next year, but in 2021 they'll start to see real material impact and increase in revenues from 5G. So that is a sign to service providers around the world that when you go early and you go big, there can be benefits. Of course, there's also risks and downsides. Another thing I'd say was really interesting was how our classic consumer services, mobile broadband, will certainly be supercharged by 5G. We might get a little bit of uplift in that rather mature segment, but where the service providers are really looking now is to the B2B segments, and that's largely because in a lot of cases they haven't really cracked them. So they're going to be using new things like network slicing, like mobile edge computing, to really create these tailored networks and services that they think enterprises are going to like and are going to be willing to pay for, and is going to really create the business case for 5G for a lot of operators in a lot of markets. And I would just say on that note that Informatech has recently done a survey of operators and vendors and others in the 5G community worldwide, and still, even though we have operators launching, the number one prohibitor, the number one barrier to launches is still the business case. You know, how can I make the money? How can I justify the investment? So although we have early launches here in the US, there's not that many in the world, and a lot of service providers are still waiting to see the evidence, waiting to prove out the business case before they launch.
Okay, and so do you think maybe compared to, say, a year ago, that you're starting to see more defined business cases being crystallized? I mean, if Verizon is seeing 2021 as maybe the year when they'll be able to point to the ramp of revenues from 5G, does that give hope to other operators, even ones that haven't launched yet, that, okay, there is something that can be done rather than just saying to somebody, will you pay a bit more for 5G?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at the point where, you know, you are going to ask people to pay a little bit more for 5G. You might launch fixed wireless access services that you may not have had before using 5G. And then there's really this whole other area of new, more tailored enterprise services that, you know, the leading operators are really experimenting across the board, whether it's in healthcare, you know, retail, industrial, and just seeing what works with the technology they have today and what they can get to with the technology that's coming tomorrow. And it really is exciting for operators because they have a platform that they feel allows them to fully take part in the value chain, whereas with 4G they kind of create an amazing platform that a lot of other companies such as Facebook, Google, and others, you know, made an absolute killing on. Of course, the operators made some money, but the idea of 5G is that will allow them to create their own solutions, digital solutions that can get them earning the kind of not value that some of the digital giants have seen, but take them into a new level of revenue and value creation to really, you know, turn a new leaf for the communications industry.
Okay, great. Well, this is obviously clearly a really pivotal and exciting moment for what you do on a day-to-day basis, tracking what the operators are doing, and importantly, how they're making money. There's obviously a lot of talk here about the underlying technology and the development of the technology platforms that enable the services, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to the money, doesn't it? So It'll be really interesting, I guess, in a year's time to have this same conversation and see where we are, because that'll be a full year of service availability in the US. I'm sure things will have moved on a great deal. Mike, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks.